All right. Center view. Sure. Yeah. All right, alhamdulillah. So, let's put this. Welcome to Noshina, Dr. Agnes, and Valerie, our wonderful ASL interpreter, and all our attendees. We're so happy that you're joining us. Oops. Let me. There we go. So back to the beginning. So we're here today for Reclaiming Our Legacy, Muslim Women, Philanthropy, and the Power of Collective Giving with Noshina Hussain and Dr. Agnes Chong. Noshina will be doctor soon enough, so inshallah, it won't be a mistake then. And thank you so much to Valerie for being our interpreter. So if you're on the call today, just be mindful. We do have ASL interpreter. We don't want her fingers to get too tired, so please be mindful. Today's agenda, welcome, an intro to AMCF and the Women's Giving Circle, speaker information, upcoming events, presentation, questions, and thank you so much. A little bit about AMCF. Our vision is leading sustainable and strategic Muslim philanthropy for today and future generations. Our mission is cultivating donor giving and diversifying funding to advance charitable causes. Our core values are sacred, strategic, sustainable, collaborative, diverse, inclusive, and integrity. We were founded in 2016, the only U.S. organization dedicated to American Muslim philanthropy. We have distributed through AMCF over 25 million to over 1,000 nonprofits. Just this Ramadan, over $2 million was distributed through AMCF to a wide variety of nonprofits. We currently manage approximately $8 million in assets, including 240 donor-advised funds and 30 endowments. Alhamdulillah. Our core programs are for both donors and nonprofits, including donor-advised funds, giving circles, endowments, and leadership development, of which this is a part. We do have a nonprofit resource center we encourage you to check out. There's the bit.ly and a QR code. And if you want more information, email them, my teammates at nonprofitengage@amuslimcf.org. And we're today part of the Muslim Women's Giving Circle. Our purpose is to harness the power of American Muslim women through collective giving, combining and democratizing our giving, amplifying women-focused nonprofits, supporting Muslim women in leadership, providing seamless donations to organizations chosen by our members. How it works, you join as a member with $5 a month or more, become a voting member with $35 a month or $420 a year. Nominate. Members can each nominate one eligible nonprofit for funding preference for nonprofits serving or led by American Muslim women. Vote. Voting members determine the finalists, the top 5, and then have another vote with a decision day to determine the 3 organizations that will be funded. What do we do? Well, and we have collectively raised and distributed $41,000 to 6 nonprofits in the past 4 years. Currently, we're in our 3rd Giving Circle cycle. So thank you to our members. Last year, to our grantees, Muslim Legal Fund of America, $7,500. Olive Community Services, $4,500. And Pillars of Peace, $3,000. Right now, our Giving Circle cycle is open. Nominations are being taken. Our members, if you're here and you're a member, please don't forget to nominate. One of our nominees is right here with us, the Minnesota Deaf Muslim Community. So yay, they are one of our nominees and they're a member as well. So fortunate to have them here today. For more information, here's the FAQ page, and you can also reach out. Part of our mission is also to education and networking. We offer free webinars every month. This is one of them. We also have in-person events, primarily in SoCal, where I live. We also do networking, and we also have resources. We have a weekly curated newsletter, and I'd love to put people together. Upcoming programs. Well, if you want to travel to Chicago next week, you can meet myself as well as Noshina. We'll be at the Nonprofit Summit, and well as many of our other members, so Danaz Waraj, Iman Shebli, Arshel Ali Khan, Shazeen Mufti, Ola Mohammed, Habiba Shitu are all Giving Circle members or grantees, and will all be speakers at next week's Nonprofit Summit. And the wonderful Noshina will have a book signing table on Friday. So if you're in town, please check us out. And then next month in September, we will have a virtual celebration of prosperity with purpose, Noshina's book. So virtual book talk and unveiling. So if you haven't purchased the book, do so and join us to unwrap and learn more. September 24th, our next webinar will be on Halal Investing 101, Building Wealth with Faith and Intention with Yasmin Khan, the founder of the Intentional Currency. Then in October, we will be working on finalizing an in-person summit for Muslim women professionals here in SoCal. And then November 22nd, put on your calendar, we will have AMCF Symposium and Philanthropy Day, a virtual awards ceremony where the finalists for this year's Women Giving Circle will be announced. So make sure to put it on your calendar. Join us anyway with your dua, your money, your participation in our events, and find out more about it on our webpage, amuslimcf.org, Women's GC. And then just brief introductions. I'm Lisa Kaler, Giving Circle Manager here at AMCF. I've just been involved in education, philanthropic for the past few years, so happy to be here. We also want to welcome Noshina Hussain, researcher and author, Prosperity with Purpose. She's also a Giving Circle member, so huge shout out. And also with NISA Consulting. She is a nonprofit entrepreneur, coach, and speaker dedicated to empowering Muslim women and advancing generosity. Founder of Rise and NISA Consulting, she has over 20 years of nonprofit leadership experience, alhamdulillah. Currently pursuing a doctorate in philanthropic leadership, her research focuses on Muslim women's giving. She is also the author of the recently published Prosperity with Purpose, a Muslim women's guide to abundance and generosity. So follow her on LinkedIn and check out her consulting. We also want to make a shout out to Dr. Agnes Chong, AMCF board and former VP. She's a leadership circle member. Unfortunately, she is sick today and not able to join us, but I just do want to mention her. Really a lovely lady. She has dedicated her career to strengthening Muslim communities through research, advocacy, and nonprofit leadership. A former vice president and board member of the American Muslim Community Foundation, she earned her doctorate at Stanford Law School, focusing on the impact of post-9/11 policies on Muslim organizations. She co-founded the Stanford Program in Law and Society and has led efforts with CARE and the Australian Muslim Civil Rights Advocacy Network. So huge shout out to her. And we're sorry that she was not able to join us. So we're going to be on to our presentation of Reclaiming Our Legacy, Muslim Women, Philanthropy, and the Power of Collective Giving. So I'm going to stop sharing, turning it over to Noshina.
Okay, what can you see?
You're good.
Good. All right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's so nice to be here with all of you. Thank you, Lisa. I'm sad that Dr. Agnes is not here with us, but I think we're still going to have a great conversation. May Allah grant Dr. Agnes shifa as she heals. Shout out to both Valerie and Asma, my favorite clients in the nonprofit sector. I love this organization. They are dear to my heart, so I'm really happy to see both of them here. And with that, I'm going to get started and kind of talk to you about what I like to call Muslim women's leadership and philanthropy as legacy makers. When you think of the word philanthropy, what comes to your mind? I'd love for you to just drop your answers in the chat. I'll give you like a second or two to think about this question, especially because philanthropy is often translated as a love of humanity. In Islam, we see Muslim philanthropy show up in different ways around our love for our deen and our love for Allah. But when you think of philanthropy, what are some things that come to mind? So if you want to drop it in the chat. Even throughout this entire conversation, whatever comes to mind, please feel free to write things into the chat. But yes, absolutely, it's about support, about serving your community. Yes, Zahra, that's really right on point when it comes to Muslim philanthropy. And yes, charity, absolutely. Charitable giving, I think, is a very huge part of what philanthropy means. Let's see. What I would like to do now is actually help you understand what philanthropy means in terms of this framework about the five T's. I have a quick question. Is the chat box, can you see the chat box in the middle of the screen? All right, let's see how I can move that. All right. So when we think of the five T's, they stand for time, talent, treasure, ties, and testimony. So there's a little bit of alliteration there with the T's, but I'll walk you through kind of what each T means. Many of us are very familiar with treasure, right? The actual dollar amount or the financial donation that we give when we are giving charity. But sometimes there are other parts of our giving that show up in different ways. For example, time is when we volunteer or donate our time to serve the community. Think about when you volunteer at your local masjid, when you're helping with Islamic school programming, or even like mentoring young Muslim women. Even being like on the board of a masjid or a Muslim-run nonprofit requires time for you to give in order to make that organization successful. Now, talent is another T, which is around using your skills and your expertise. So many of us have a wide variety of professional skills, whether it's like accounting or graphic design. Some of us are great at photography or catering and making amazing meals. Some of us are great at teaching some of these skills to the nonprofits that we care about. But our talent is when we use our education, experience, and expertise to serve those nonprofits and not necessarily get paid for it. Like I mentioned, treasure is our financial giving, which can show up as zakat, which is obligatory, and then also sadaqah, which is more volunteer based, right? When we give additional sadaqah to help community members, sometimes we're helping people with immediate needs like car repairs or rental assistance, or even, establishing a local masajid. Ties are when we leverage our relationships for the collective good. So it's within our network of friends and family that we, you know, connect others to the organizations that we care about. Sometimes this shows up as us organizing like fundraisers within our community when we invite our own circle of friends, and then we help connect sisters and to other sisters and to help each other. It could also even mean just like using your social media and rallying for support for causes that are aligned with your own values. And finally, testimony is when you use your voice to vouch for an organization. It's a form of advocacy. It's like when you're speaking about causes you care about public policy. It's when you share your story to inspire other Muslims or other Muslim women and advocating for the issues that affect the Muslim community. So as you can see, this framework shows that we all are, in some form or shape, philanthropists through our own Islamic practices and principles. So when we give zakat or sadaqah, when we volunteer at the masjid, or use our voices to advocate for justice, we're also living as philanthropists. The five T's help us sort of recognize the faith in action that we see in our everyday philanthropic behaviors. So, every Muslim woman has the potential to make a meaningful impact through whichever one of these T's that resonates most with her current situation. Not all of us need to be billionaires in order to be philanthropic. Many of us show up with our time, talent, ties, and testimony in that space of philanthropy. Let's see. Next is in Islam, the way we usually hear about philanthropy is through zakat and sadaqah. And I feel like we've talked a lot about these two topics, but instead, I think now what I want to do is really focus on what a waqf is. And so waqf is the sort of Arabic term for Islamic endowments. And what's fascinating about waqf is that it's a charitable endowment that's established by donating significant assets. And these assets can be buildings, property, land, a nice chunk of cash, or other type of properties. Like I have read about Waqf that even have like livestock, right? Like chickens and goats. And then there's also like pots and pans. So it can be anything that has the ability to earn income. So that those assets are what we call the principal, and they remain untouched. And so whatever income is generated from those assets in perpetuity is then funding a organization or a cause. And so it is seen as like a form of sadaqah jariyah because it's a continuous charity that provides ongoing rewards even after somebody passes away. And I had the chance to be in Bosnia last year, and especially because Bosnia has gone through a very horrific genocide, their rebuilding has been quite uplifting because they have established different waqfs to make sure that the buildings and institutions and infrastructure in the country are sustainable. So, for example, there is a masjid. It has a madrasa, like an Islamic school for the children, and it has other Islamic programming for the community. But attached to it is a bakery, and that bakery sells all kinds of delicious fresh breads and pastries and baked goods. And all of the profits from that bakery then are put back into the upkeep and maintenance of the masjid and the school and the madrasa. And so, of course, they, generate donations throughout the week and the month and so forth, but they also have a source of income to help maintain the sustainability of that organization. And so we have powerful examples of women throughout our history that have also established Okaf. I think a lot of us are very familiar with Fatima and Maryam al-Fihri because those two sisters established the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Morocco. It is the oldest continuously operating university in the world, and it still functions today. And that has been established because of a waqf that the sisters had established. There's also the Hasiki Hurram from the Ottoman Empire. She used her wealth to create a waqf supporting the three holy places of Jerusalem, Mecca, and Medina. And she's also done a lot of things to establish in Palestine that included a mosque, a public soup kitchen, and an inn for Muslim pilgrims. I right now I am not sure what it must be like in Palestine because I hadn't had a chance to look at, especially with the war that's going on, of where these Awqaf are. But whenever there is war, and the Awqaf are some of the first things that kind of get dismantled. And so hopefully Allah protects these places and these endowments. And another person to give a shout out to is Nilofer Hatun. She established a soup kitchen complex in Turkey. And so it provides food and lodging for dervishes and the community. So all of these women, like they identified community needs and created sustainable solutions through their awqaf. And there's many, many other examples around like the schools that they funded, the hospitals that they created, the soup kitchens, safe housing for women, and other types of educational institutions. So today, when you think about university endowments, right? The one that really comes to mind is like Harvard's $53 billion endowment or Oxford University's trust system. But those were all inspired by Muslims and Islamic awqaf. So that's something that I think we should all be very proud of, is that that comes from our religion and faith. Now, how did women do this, right? Like, I think a lot of people have questions around, like, how did Muslim women have power because of their wealth? And so I want to talk to three really compelling points about Muslim women's historic economic rights and the independence that, because this kind of challenges some common misperceptions that people have around Muslim women and their agency with wealth. So we're going to talk real quickly about just property rights and inheritance, financial independence and marriage, and also economic agency in the public sphere. So if we think about just property rights and inheritance back in the 7th century, I mean, Muslim women had gained explicit inheritance rights like 1,200 years before women here in the United States had that right. Up until 1848, women were actually considered property of their husbands. And so just think about the contrast with Islamic inheritance rights from the 7th century. We, in the Quran, right, it says that we were granted rights to inherit property. We could own property independently from our husbands. We were able to maintain control of those assets before and after marriage. And we could conduct business and enter into contracts, right? We even had guaranteed shares from of inheritance from our parents or our spouses. So I just want to uplift that key point that Islamic law always has recognized women's economic rights and property ownership as real fundamental principles from the inception. Meanwhile, in the United States, much of the Western world, married women were legally considered their husband's property until mid 19th century. So I think, if anything, this is a great reminder of just like what is inherent in our own Islam and what Allah has ordained for us. Um, I think a great example that we all love to highlight is Khadija bint Khuwaylid, who is the first wife of the Prophet ﷺ, also the first female Muslim. She's a wealthy businesswoman who ran her own successful trading enterprise, and she employed men, including the Prophet ﷺ, before their marriage. And she managed international trade caravans. And so it's just fascinating to see this woman who had such agency, like that's who is our like role model when it comes to economic rights of Muslim women. Now, we also have financial independence in our marriage. I think people forget that in the Islamic marriage contract of the nikah, those contracts historically protect women's financial autonomy. Women have the right to keep their earnings separate from household expenses if they want. When she receives her marriage gift, which is the meher, this is exclusively hers. It's her gift, her property. And women can stipulate even additional economic conditions in their marriage contracts, right? Like they can add more things into those contracts. And so what we have seen in historical records is like even in medieval Cairo and some other Muslim cities that it shows that Muslim women had um, they had businesses, they owned property, and that wasn't something that was considered unusual. It was part of their everyday society. And of course, I think we can understand then how did the economic agency show up in the public sphere? And it's because they had agency over their inheritance and their money and their finances. And so there are historical records that show, especially like during the Ottoman Empire and the Mughal Empire, that women were property owners and managers. We see that the founders of many of these charitable endowments, the Waqf, they are women. They are Muslim women. And what's fascinating is like if if a if a man like a relative came out of nowhere demanding um, their wealth, they took them to court. Like it was fascinating to see Muslim women go to court and defend their economic rights. Like they knew the law, they knew how they can fight for their rights, and they stood in front of judges and pleaded their case and won. And so to me, it's like the agency wasn't just around the wealth, but also even understanding the law. So it's pretty amazing. A lot of people that I've interviewed and talked to have always said these cities like New Delhi and Istanbul, the civil society there was built by Muslim women. And it's because we would take our disposable income and basically establish the hospitals and the schools and the institutions that needed for civil society to function. So now, when you learn about this, you learn about the five T's, and you learn about all the different ways that Muslim women showed up. How do you see yourself as a philanthropist? And feel free to drop your answers in the chat again. But I hope that this conversation helps you feel like there are different ways that all of us show up to make the world a better place, and that it's not just limited to like the billionaires, right? Allah sees the intentions that we make, He sees the actions that we take, and then those outcomes hopefully are to make the world a better place. And so I will pass it back to Lisa to continue this conversation around how giving circles also show up in this model of philanthropy.
Well, can we first have a chance to ask any questions?
Oh, sure. I didn't know if you wanted to do Q&A at the very end, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Absolutely.
well, I wanted to know, listening to all of this, when did things change?
I think this is like $1 million question. And what I, again, my theory, and isn't fully baked, is that colonization and war basically took things over. So when, for example, the Ottoman Empire was being attacked, the first things that they dismantled were the Okaf, were the endowments. They changed this narrative that Muslims were barbarians and backwards, and in all reality, Europe was in the Dark Ages. Europe was behind, whereas the Muslim world was thriving. Um, and that is all of like the Middle East and North Africa. I mean, I think all of us, my family is from India, and just British colonization and what it did to South Asia really, I think, is when we saw that huge change of oppressive, dismantling tactics. And so now what we're trying to do is reclaim that narrative, remind everyone of like where we came from and what our roots are, versus feeling like we have to rebuild. We are going back to our roots, is how I see it.
I don't know if anybody else has a question they want to drop in the chat or um, unmute.
Let me see what's in
I
the
have a follow-up question if nobody else does.
Let's see. Giving time and talent. Oh, good.
I was just curious is if there's any region or area or group of people that have kept up that historic Islamic tradition of women in philanthropy, where women, I'm not going to say they're doing more than men, but they're still the basis that didn't go away. They remained as the kind of the basis, as you mentioned, of civil society, their wealth, their time, really driving civil society
Yeah.
in a positive manner.
I
Where
am
that kind of kept on.
I feel like Indonesia and Malaysia are really great examples. Um, because I see them so much more advanced in like just finances and fintech and investing and all of that. So that I'm just starting to kind of scratch that surface. But I also do see that as much as we sort of hate seeing the monarchy in the Middle East, those princesses are actually using their money to build institutions that are needed, right? There are still women who are, queens and princes who are royalty, who are still creating different institutions to help women, whether it's through education, through healthcare. There's just I think they just have an advantage because they're in royalty and they've got that money, right? But I think it's a starting point, right? It's still a great I think success story that we can all share. But also we shouldn't limit ourselves to thinking that we need to be royalty in order to be philanthropic. But not everything's doom and gloom. There's beautiful women doing beautiful things all around the world.
Right. Well, thank you. Always good to have some happy stuff. And that's again tying into the Women's Giving Circle. That's of course what we're here to do is really be part of that reclaiming and providing a platform for Muslim women with a very low entry point to start to let's gather together and do good things, whether it's donating money or amplifying, really harnessing the power of those 5 T's in the different ways so that, yes, we're here today because Noshina is a member, Valerie's a member. This is all part of that networking and getting people together to know about the Minnesota Deaf Muslim community, to know about Zahra, who's another leadership circle member who's here today, and to meet Ellen, which I don't think I've seen on a previous meeting. So we'll love to chat with you later on. And Shazeen, our ED, is here. So again, it's a very simple and it's also rooted in Islamic history and culture to give so that women get together, they pitch in a few dollars or more dollars depending on their income, and monthly or yearly, traditional method. Oh, my son lost his job, my nephew is getting married. Okay, the pot this month goes to this family. Or, this lady, she's, homebound, she's had a baby or sick, that every month somebody else gets the pot and it's kind of rotated through everybody. I remember when I first started, first in the Islamic community, the ladies at the school I was at were doing this, like, oh, can you chip in? And it's just not an American concept. It's not something I was familiar with. I'm like, I thought it was like a pyramid scheme or something, like totally out of my understanding. And then they explained, it was like, oh, okay, that does make sense and they would know, like, they would like, oh, I gave $15 and it was a small amount. And they would know, like, oh yeah, my turn's coming in 2 years or 18 months or whatever. Like, they would notice. So we're not quite like that, but yes, we're encouraging people to come and member. $5 price. Well, don't do Starbucks necessary, but the price of a cup of coffee or tea, or actually it's cheaper than a cup of tea in California and where I live and Shazeen live, but very small point, very small donation. And again, everybody pitches in. You want to be a voting member, $35 a month. Again, the price of a cheap meal at most places these days. You Rather than going out to eat, you donate that and we all pitch in together. Right now we have about 35 members, alhamdulillah, some giving $5, 10, 15, 35. A couple of people have given like, a little bit more than that. They just want to support. So all that together over this year's cycle, we collect a little bit close to $10,000. Again, not a ton of money. And a part of this is not the money, but the more people we have. And again, not everybody is interested in becoming a member, but after that, one step beyond are the people that, the friends and families of a member, right? Or their organization, they're kind of representing the organization. The more people we touch, the more awareness we can get. So it's not just, yes, we have, for this year right now, we have 9 nominees. Nomination window is still open. We want to let everybody know about these great organizations, the great things they're doing. Many of them are small nonprofits. They might be regionally based. Nobody outside their area has heard of them, or they're doing something particular. Like one of them is Care Collective. They do mental health workshops from an Islamic perspective. To be honest, they're the only organization I know doing that. And they all donate and volunteer their time. They have to charge because the content is copyrighted, and to get a certificate, they have to pay for the certificate, but they are all donating their time. So a small nonprofit, but how else would we know about these and other nonprofits? So our job here with the Women's Giving Circuit, AMCF, is put them on the map, on the Muslim community map. Like, yeah, here's our logo. Here's their, the website, check them out. Here's their candid profile. Zahra has been very helpful in helping us. Again, we're also part of is building capacity for these small organizations so that, yes, Shazine, for example, will donate a little bit of her time to meet with them. I'll, help with my efforts in connecting, but also, yeah, building capacity. Not all these organizations have a candid profile. They haven't just necessarily ever applied for a grant before. So how do you do that? All part of what we're doing, the Giving Circle. So yes, collectively give money. Yes, check out these organizations. Yes, we want to amplify. Yes, we want to build capacity. All of that in one kind of platform. So all of that all the time, every day. That's what we're doing here at the Giving Circle. So, and I think that links the strengths of Islam and Muslim women, that's what, all of us here, we're doing that, whether it's money or time. Valerie is so nice. She's a philanthropic change maker, right? She is interpreting, thank you so much. But that's right. And Asma, I think, is you're on the board of the Minnesota Deaf Muslim Community. Shazina is our new ED. Noshina is a researcher and author. These are all ways we help one another and help the community to grow together. So back to Noshina.
Esma's saying really quick, I'm not on the board of Minnesota Deaf Muslim Community. I was on the board. I'm a founding board member, but now I'm the assistant director.
Okay, so I don't know if that's an up or down, but yay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Lisa, are we're just having some more Q&A right now?
We got Shazine, we have Zahra, lots of great minds in the room.
Yeah,
So.
I'd love to hear maybe from Zahra, like tell us about a little bit about yourself and like what are some causes that you have been supporting? How do you see yourself as a philanthropic leader?
Sure. I'm Zara. I don't think we've met well, not in person, but in a Zoom room before. I'm Zara. Nice to meet you. I've worked in the philanthropic sector since I graduated college. So I've always like been there in my professional life, but also I've always just like loved volunteering my time. So a lot of it, my professional life is very like data fundraising focused, but in my personal life, I like to volunteer in education spaces. I like to find causes to donate my extra cash to. And also just like use my talent to, so like, for example, I did the candid webinars a couple times for AMCF. I also have helped people update their resumes and be a mentor for students in Pakistan, which is where I'm from. So various different ways that I try to find ways to give back.
I love it. That's wonderful. I think all of us have many stories like that, right? Where it's not just about the about the check or the dollar amount that we're giving. It's about like our heart, right? Like where our heart lies in the community and the people that we want to help. So thank you for sharing that. Shazine, I haven't seen you in a minute. How are you?
I know it's been a while, and I think we're going to see each other next week, inshallah. So looking forward to that. You know, I wanted to share a story. Lisa and I recently spoke at a women's business conference get together. And we talked about the Women's Giving Circle, the two of us. We were on a panel. And this woman came up to me afterwards who was kind of just starting off in business. You know, she was a startup, didn't have a lot of money. And she's like, you know, I didn't realize like I could participate like in a women's giving circle with so few dollars, right? She's like, I thought I had to make a lot of money. I had to earn a lot of money to be able to give, right? And she's like, this is so nice that even at, you know, what little money I have, I can be part of something. And as I make more money, then I can give more money, right? And so like that was so key, like start where you're at, right? Oftentimes we feel like we need to be the princesses or the, you know, have a lot of wealth in order to participate and do good. But especially with 5Ts, you can, you know, there's such, you know, and I won't say low, but there's such accessible entry points for everyone. And I feel like it, you know, once everyone kind of knows that, it's more just informing people that there are such great entry points and that we can all participate. And as Philanthropy Together, one of our philanthropic partners says, you know, everyone's a philanthropist. Everyone can be a philanthropist, right? We all have things that we can give. We don't feel it sometimes, but you know, and just seeing that and helping women realize that and it was so empowering because she said, you know, my husband usually makes all of the decisions around the money we give. And then she's like, I realize I can make my own decisions about giving. Right. So that was just like a win-win moment, but it's the thing that like is so, you know, I tell Lisa, like, I love what I do. Like I get to share this powerful, wonderful message with people, especially women. Right. And it really like you see the shifts that it makes for people, but that's like, I feel like that's why we're here. And thank you for helping us share that message with people, right? It's the stories we don't know about. It's the parts of history, especially that it's not like women weren't 50%, if not more, you know, of the builders. It's just that our stories have been left out, right? And it's great um to hear the stories. I love the collection of stories and I love, you know, that we can share these stories out. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, I really loved the framing of the 5Ts because it makes philanthropy so accessible and everyone can meet you where you're at when you frame it that way. So thank you for that.
And Ellen or Esma, if you have any thoughts or you want to share. Oh, thank you for joining us on video, Ellen. It's easier to.
Sure. I'm Ellen Pennington. I'm based in Houston, Texas, and I've actually for many years, I think even when I was in college, have been interested in general in like nonprofit work and social work, but I went a different route and am now currently kind of trying to pivot back to what I think was originally my interest and calling there. But I being in Houston, Texas, I have the benefit and privilege of getting a lot of classes from Sheikh Joe Bradford and some institutes here, and the focus on I feel like economic well-being and just in general rectifying some issues that are in our societies through moving wealth as a community is something that I just feel very strongly about and have a lot of interest in, especially in addition to the Muslim tradition, having some insight a little bit into, you know, cooperative collections and Amish communities and in particularly Black women in the churches throughout American history. I was like, I feel like there is so many strong traditions to pull from to recognize how women have been fundamentally shaping society in such a beneficial
I'm
way. And I
sorry.
think
Can you
it's
say that
very,
again, Ellen? I'm so sorry. Can you say that again? I only heard, well, I'm not going to say what I heard. Tell me what you said. Go back to the churches.
yes, yes. Uh, uh, Additional traditions in addition to our Muslim community. I'm aware of collective wealth, like cooperative collections of wealth and society building by Amish, like Mennonite churches, as well as Black American women, particularly in their church communities, pooling money, taking care of each other, building, strong communities of care in the United States, particularly. And so, with all of these traditions in mind, I feel very inspired to kind of help communicate that to my fellow sisters. And like you said, you make it much more accessible when you realize that it's not just, monetary giving, but as well time, talent, skill, which can change in different phases of our life and things. So kind of venturing back into studies and volunteering again and just trying to figure out how I can contribute more in this space. So very excited for this webinar, and I do have your book, alhamdulillah. I'm interested to read. So.
Thank you so much for repeating yourself again. I'm going to tell you what I thought I heard now. I heard you say whack women, and I was like, what kind of woman is that? I thought I heard you say W-A-C-K. I was like, is that a culture? Is that, because like that's a slang term
Yeah.
that means like if you whack,
Yeah.
you're lousy. So I just knew it wasn't that. I was like, what
Yeah.
is that? Thank you for repeating yourself.
Yes, I'm glad you asked me and that I had the opportunity to clarify, definitely.
So Esma's saying, I don't really have anything to add, like, so my name is Esma. I work for the Minnesota Deaf Muslim community. I'm the assistant director. In the past, I was a board member, and so far since 2013, I'm one of the founding board members. I did drop back for a while to focus on family, got married, had a baby, and then I came back in like 2022. And just last year, I had the opportunity to become a full-time employee, and so I'm on the staff now. So I moved from the board to staff, and that's been a nice journey. And man, thinking about the 5 T's, you know, before, I was volunteering with MDMC. I remember volunteering with other organizations. With Metro Transit, I had responsibilities to keep the bus stops clean and safe and things like that. I never thought of that as philanthropic philanthropic efforts, but it's just so important for us to support, organizations with whatever we have. So I really love that. So honestly, this meeting has been awesome. Hearing that history about Muslim women's, their donations and commitments to building society, that's amazing.
And that's part of the efforts, right? Is to learn, because some of that has been, I can say whitewashed, but has been washed away from history. And it's not in US textbooks for sure, but it's also not in textbooks in Muslim majority countries. So it's like everywhere that history is, many places, it's now kind of been washed away. And really, like, I mean, you don't hear that the first Muslim was a female, based probably in her terms, a multimillionaire, an international trade. Like, that's not the story. That's not the khutbah. And that's something we need to you know, people, you hear the couple, oh, the ladies can't go in the front of the men, but the first Muslim, she was the boss of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Like you can't get bigger than that. And that's our Islam. Like you know, alhamdulillah, that's what we are. That's our religion. I think that's really important.
Absolutely, absolutely.
As we kind of wrap up this conversation, I do want to invite everyone to, I'm gonna call it homework. But after you leave this webinar, I want you to think about a woman from your family, from your heritage, from your ethnicity who embodies the 5 T's. One of the things that in my research that I found so much fun and pride and joy was to go back into my family's from Hyderabad, India, and to learn about all these Muslim women who built these wonderful institutions in Hyderabad with their own 5 T's just made me feel like I understood where I came from, right? Like I understood my background and who my legacy, who my ancestors are. And so I invite all of you to think about whose whose legacy are you? Whose answered dua are you from back then and from your homelands? And then tell me those stories. Like email me. I would love to know what you uncover. I think the more we share these stories, the more we tell each other about them, I think this will really help us reclaim our narrative and show how powerful and impactful Muslim women have been over the centuries.
So I'm hearing you want Muslim women from the heritage.
I mean, we want Muslim, right? But we also think everybody's Muslim, right? So, but I know, Lisa, that's a good, thank you for asking that because I know for our converts and reverts who come into this, I still think you come from a legacy and perhaps you are the actual ancestor that generations to come will be talking about.
Really powerful.
Any other final thoughts or anything before we let Nosheen and everybody go?
This is the interpreter. I was just saying Noshina loves to give homework. Me and Esma know that well.
She didn't put her email in the chat yet. I
What? You don't already have it?
well, not I have it, but
I'm
not
gonna put it in right
here.
now.
I'm going to share it in person when we see each other because I have a story from my ancestry I want to share. And
Good.
just-
I'd love
so
to hear.
I'll share it in person because I'm not a typer or texter.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
But and if you share and CC like me or the Giving Circle, then perhaps we can put it in a post. Or if Noshina, you wanted to make a blog post about this,
Yeah, I'd love to.
happy to do that.
Yeah, we'd love.
Rather than me using AI and I come up with this stuff, you can do it yourself and include all these some of these lovely stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
All right, then Lisa, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you again for joining us here today. If you're not a member, try to think about becoming a Giving Circle member. It's just $5 a month or more. If you are a member, don't forget to nominate somebody. You know, you have until September 5th, so like 10 days. And otherwise, give your dua, your good positive thoughts. They do a lot. Esma?
So if we want to become a member, do you have to be from an organization or can just anybody become a member of the Women's Giving Circle?
Anybody, even guys can become a member. We are so generous. We let guys give us money. They can't vote.
We'll take their money. We actually do have a few male members that are for support. They give it for support and we take their money. We're happy with that.
They can even donate more. It's fine.
Yes, we will take more.
But yeah, anybody, your sons, nephews, friends, anybody there, you don't have to be Muslim, you don't have to be women, anybody can donate. It's all just collectively, it's just a pool of money. Everything everybody puts in just tossed in the pool, and the pool is distributed out to the 3 finalists at the end of the year. So the more the better, the more money, the more members. It helps organizations with the money, but also organizations with awareness. So it's there's no downside. The more the better. So
Great.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. Well, thank you so much. If anyone at Hassan, but I'm going to stop the recording.